There are flower essences for mending a broken heart, for feeling like you can fall in love with yourself and you don't need any love outside of you, which by the way makes you really sexy.
Welcome to Wellness, your ultimate guide to unlocking your full human potential through biohacking. I'm your host, ASHLEYDEELEY. I'm a certified sports nutrition coach, former personal trainer, and Pilates instructor, and I have a degree in kinesiology. My goal is to help you improve and elevate the quality of your life. When you leave a review, it makes a positive difference. Whether you're listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube, or listening on any other streaming app, it helps listeners just like you find this hidden health information faster. The cosmetics industry is highly unregulated, meaning harmful chemicals are hiding in your typical drugstore and big box products. But Araza Beauty is the first paleo-certified makeup line in the US, made with real ingredients you can pronounce. Their formulas are nourishing and actually good for your skin. They promote that youthful glow and high performance results. Visit arazabeauty.com/ASHLEYDEELEY, ARAZA. arazabeauty.com/ASHLEYDEELEY. What if I told you there was a supplement that could help you burn fat, improve energy, maintain muscle mass, and optimize your thyroid, all without any negative side effects? Would you take it? I do. It's called Thyroid Fixxr. Thyroid Fixxr is a naturally occurring thyroid hormone metabolite shown in research to help increase resting metabolic rate, making it easier to burn stubborn fat. It also supports healthy insulin and glucose regulation for sustained energy throughout the day, which means no more afternoon crashes. Thyroid Fixxr is a smart, science-backed addition to your daily routine. And for me, it's a no-brainer. Visit betterlifedoctor.com/ASHLEYDEELEY and use code WELCOMEWELLNESS. Today's guest is Katie Hess, a renowned expert in bioenergetic remedies. For the last 25 years, she's hand-collected over 300 flower remedies from around the world and studied their impact. Katie has established an intuitive system which allows doctors, practitioners, and individuals to determine their own needs, accelerate their personal transformation, and realize their true potential. Thousands of people around the world have experienced the benefits of her remedies, not only for personal well-being, but as a catalyst for expansion in relationships, business, and community. The ultimate impact is a ripple effect which reaches far beyond the individual, transforming the world from the inside out. Katie is the founder of Lotus Wei and the Self-Arising Nature Center in Phoenix, Arizona, an international destination for flower essence education and practitioner training. She teaches about flower remedies and mindful awareness around the world. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Can you give us a bit of your background story?
Yeah, sure. I think the part you're more interested in is the flower remedies. I've been working with flower remedies for 25 years. I graduated college and then I was like, what do I really want to do? How am I going to help people reach their full potential? So I traveled some, I lived outside of the country, and I ended up meeting a teacher, an expert in flower essences. He said, if we could get 3% of the world's population working with these remedies, it would change the future of the planet. And so I was like, I'm in. And that's how it all started. So I've been doing that for a long time since then.
Katie, that was like a 30-second intro overview. I appreciate that it was so quick. But
trying to be short and snappy. Do you want me to get in a little deeper?
I do. I have so many questions for you. Like, what's a flower essence? Where did you live? Let's go deeper.
Yeah. Okay. So I lived in Spain for a year. I lived in Germany for a year. I lived in Mexico for a couple of years. I saw all my friends getting like stuck and trapped in bills after I graduated college, like mortgages, cell phone bills, whatever the car bills, and they like hated their job. So I was like, I need to figure out what I'm actually going to do because I don't want to get trapped into something that I hate doing. And I was also kind of on a spiritual mission. Ever since I was a kid, had this like really deep longing for spiritual connection. And I knew I was supposed to be around a certain tribe of people. And I couldn't find where they were, of course, in this like dinky little town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where, when all of that was like awakening. So as soon as I graduated college, it was like the moment where I could like really like start searching. And the first part of the search was finding my flower essence teacher, because he gave me like the means or the medium, like how would I help people for the rest of my life? Like all of us want to help people, but like how, and what's that thing that we're so passionate about? We can do it until we drop and die, And so that was kind of like the first part of the journey. And then the second was in coming back to the United States. Because originally I started my business in Mexico, and then I woke up one morning and I was just like, I am not in the right place. I need to go somewhere else. And that sort of like intuitive calling pulled me to Arizona. And then within a very short time, I met people who I would consider like my spiritual family, my spiritual teachers. And then that was the second part of the, sort of like, have you seen the movie Kill Bill?
Yeah.
When she goes up into the mountains and I can't remember what the teacher's name is. He's Chinese and he's like just beating her up, basically, not physically, but like putting her through such a rigorous regimen that she can like barely hold the chopsticks as she's eating rice. So that was like the second part of my journey, was meeting my spiritual teachers, recognizing that the guys in the red robes and the Tibetan monks were like the ones I'd been looking for my whole life, but didn't know where to find them. And then that began my meditation journey and purification, and like really prepping me to take, here's flower essences on one hand as a medium, along with how do I practice what I preach? How do I use the flower essences and the practice of meditation to really seriously commit myself to evolving to be the best possible me that I could in this life? And then that being the ripple effect. And then from there, it was like, how do I teach myself how to be an entrepreneur? For the first 10 years, I worked with people one-on-one. In the beginning, it was freaking rough. It was 2001. Meditation was not cool. Yoga wasn't even cool back in those days. I was putting groceries on credit cards. I mean, it was rough in the beginning, and people thought I was a total woo-woo freak. Since then, for the first 10 years working with people one-on-one, to getting to a point where it was like, I cannot keep this quiet anymore. I have to reach more people, because the transformations I was seeing in my clients were crazy. I thought somebody should make a reality TV show out of this. And then from there, it was like, how do I do sales? Oh my God, I hate doing sales. How do I do accounting? How do I do marketing? Now there's social media. How do I figure out this Instagram thing? How do I hire people? How do I fire people? How do I, grow a team and consistently evolve? And how do I find people that want to evolve? To where it is now, where people are pretty readily open to it, and obviously our culture has changed a lot. And there's still so much more to go. We just recently started an e-commerce business in India. So it's like this kind of parallel of, I feel like I'm starting all over again and remembering what that feels like to talk to people who have no reference, no clue, and, gently like reflecting back to them what's happening in their lives and how it's affecting them. So here we are. And now we own the San Center. It's a wellness center in Phoenix, where people can come and enjoy services and classes and teachings and retreats and fun things here in Phoenix too.
Thank you for that wider background. I appreciate it. I am so interested in what that calling was in you, where you saw all your friends having these bills to pay. It sounds like you were struggling with your own challenges with bills, putting groceries on credit cards, being woo-woo before woo-woo was really a thing, maybe more granola-y. Where did this calling come from?
I mean, originally, like deep down, it was like from when I was 7 years old, because I was an only child. I was on Lake Michigan. There were hardly any people around. I was really convinced that I should be somewhere doing something big, and I needed to find the people that we'd all do it together. And so I was like doing astral travel, I wasn't doing it. I read a book about astral travel. So I was like trying to project myself every night when I go to sleep to the place that I knew I needed to be, right? But I was never successful at that. So then after college, it was just this, I think a lot of people get it at that age in your early 20s. You're like looking, you're searching. And I just saw that like all of us are held back by so many things. We limit ourselves, we limit our potential, we're triggered by things. There's things in our psyche that kind of control our behavior sometimes. And there's no training, like what do you do with an intense emotion? What does that mean? We don't really have any training for that. So I wanted to find something that would help accelerate people's personal growth and like free them up of, fears and, what do they say, that the biggest fear in the world is public speaking? Why is everyone so afraid of public speaking? Like, where does that come from? And that's just one example. How do we liberate our systems from fear and operate on something a little more like, courage and fearlessness and wildness. And when you look at nature, you see that. You see like every flower is like, look at me. Like I'm plenty, I'm abundant. Like they're not like, do I smell bad? Like, do I look pretty enough? Am I skinny enough? Did I gain too many pounds? They're just like, they're such great teachers. And I guess it's like that deep desire of what would the world look like if everyone was operating at their full potential. And then when I began to see my clients like literally transform in front of my eyes, then it really like locked into a mission, because it was like, I can't keep quiet about this. Like everybody should have this experience.
I love the story that you're talking about and the experience. And as you were speaking, it reminded me of this book called Braiding Sweetgrass. And the opening of it is a bit woo-woo, but it's one of the most profound books I've ever read. And one of the biggest takeaways that I received from it was that what if we stopped thinking about trees and plants and shrubs as things, but rather identify them as pronouns? What if that oak tree is a she? Would you cut it down so easily to build your, I don't know, whatever you want to build? And that's where I really felt like, oh, these are gifts. These plants and flowers are speaking to us if we choose to listen. So how did you start listening to nature?
I mean, first I started listening. Well, gosh, I mean, there's so many parts to that. Like, I think where it was first like installed into my operating system was when I was a kid, because it was like nature was my best friend, as an only child, playing in the sand dunes and playing in the forest and picking blueberries and looking at flowers. And it's like, I guess as kids, all of us are really much more attuned and open in that world. And then it wasn't until I met my teacher in flower essences that I realized that every flower does something specific for us, that it's activating or balancing something emotionally, mentally, energetically. And that was kind of mind blowing. So I worked with his flower essences for 7 years consecutively, training myself to listen to the flower essences in the bottles, and to listen to my own intuition. So if you were a client of mine in that time, I had all the bottles in a box in such a way that I couldn't see the labels. So I started to train myself of, you would be coming to see me, or maybe you were sitting down in front of me telling me your story, and then I would pick out the bottles. And like, this is a multi-year process, but eventually I got to the point where you're on your way to me and I'm picking out the bottles. And then as you arrive, I tell you what's happening with you. And then, that became, I don't know, it was just like a really great intuition builder. And then at a certain point, one of my friends was like, why are you not collecting your own flower essences? Why are you still using someone else's? And I thought, gosh, that's a great question. So I set out to BC, Canada for the first flower essence collection trip with a friend of mine from Korea. And we collected 15 different flowers on a full moon eclipse. And it was amazing. And I felt like, that was such a magical experience. I felt like the flowers were talking to me. I felt like nature was talking to me. The animals were all coming out. It was like, the bear showing me the way to go, the butterfly showing me a flower, the snake showing me a flower. I mean, it was just this kind of really surreal experience that, I would say for the first 8 years or so of just learning how to trust myself. And you get like an inclination for something and you think, am I crazy? Like a snake just went across my toes and went into a patch of flowers. That must mean I should collect this flower. Am I crazy? Maybe, but let's just see where it goes, and that openness to kind of follow. And what's amazing is from that trip, those particular flower essences are by far the most used in our organization to this day. So making that really deep wish, that was kind of the beginning of it. It was like getting on my hands and knees and saying like, I don't know anything about the flowers in BC. Like I'm not a botanist. I don't know the Latin names, I knew what dandelion was, but like there were so many other common ones that at that point I didn't know what they were. But really just to like humbly get on my knees and request help to find exactly what the people that I could reach in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, what they would need the most. And that's how it all started.
Walk me through that story of the full moon, the bear, the butterfly. You mentioned the snake. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we did some Tai Chi in the morning. We did meditation. We sat quietly. The most important was that intention setting and just really getting myself out of the way. And then so we were staying at this beautiful B&B that had all these like trails off into the forest. So we got our materials and there were 2 pathways, and literally we're just standing there deciding which one to go on. And this huge black bear comes out and crosses and stands on one of the trails and turns his head and like looks me right in the eye and then lumbers back off into the forest. So I gave him some space, but then I thought, well, I'll just take that path that he just crossed. I'll take that as a sign. And then, walked a ways down the path. And eventually there were like, wildflowers that were like taller than me and, through this pathway. And then a butterfly circled around my head 3 times and landed on a flower that looked like a pink butterfly. And I thought, okay, I'll collect this flower. This will be the first one. And that flower actually is fireweed, which is a pioneer species, which is like nature's best powerhouse flower at, like after you have forest fires, they'll pop up because they're helping the environment heal. And this is a flower that helps us dissolve old bad memories from our heart. We don't necessarily forget, but the trigger part of the pain part gets dissolved and we can finally achieve forgiveness. And it's also really good for when we're too hard on ourselves, which everybody is. So it, after a few years, it became the flower that I told people everyone should take this at least once in their lifetime to heal their heart. And then we kept walking and this beautiful shiny snake slithered in front of my toes off into this patch of white flowers. So the white flower was yarrow, and yarrow is the most powerful flower that I've found for revitalizing the body's natural energy states after radiation. So too much computer, cell phone, nuclear, cancer, radiation, all the radiations. So much so that we started putting it into every single product that we make, because obviously, in the beginning it wasn't really an issue, but now that we're all tied to the devices, it's more of an issue. And then from there, we just kept going and the trails were endless, and we crossed a river called Golden Dreams and we did a water ceremony. And at one point it felt like, I know it sounds crazy, but in the moment it was so real. Like probably halfway in the day, it felt like there was one flower that was like shouting at me, like they were all shouting like, pick me, pick me, pick me. And I thought, am I going crazy? Like I haven't eaten anything today. So maybe, and that was euphrasia. And euphrasia is one of the best flowers for learning how to trust your intuition and be more decisive and trust your gut. And then the day just continued on that way. And we came back with all these beautiful flowers and put them in water and then put them in the sun. And then the sun went down and then we left them out for all those beautiful stars. Actually, you know what? I think it was new moon, not full moon, because I remember it was dark and you could see all the twinkly stars. And the thought was like, we'll infuse all the essences with all the starlight. And that was the beginning of, the first collection trip. And then from there, I started using those in my consultations and really getting to know how they impacted people. Because in the beginning, you think you're crazy. So sitting down to take notes about each flower and what they do, because you're like sourcing the information directly from the plant or from the earth. I've never like read a book and said, oh, I wonder what this does. Let me read about it. It's just, that's not my style. And it's not really, the resources aren't necessarily there. So how do you speak directly to the earth? How do you ask? How do you get information? How do you know you're accurate? And then being able to test that with clients and see. And so it's been, over 25 years of really building the muscles of, can I trust? Can I trust the process? Can I trust that the information I'm receiving is accurate? And then can I test it? Now we test each flower essence with 300 to 400 people and get their feedback and see, is it accurate? It's accurate. Is there something else I didn't catch? And see how it funnels through each individual's life.
Ooh, I'm loving these examples. And that the stream that you walked by or the river was called Golden Dreams. That sounds very fortuitous.
I know. It's wild. So beautiful.
Tell me what an essence is, because when I think of essence in a very naive way, I think of LaCroix and how it says water and grapefruit essence. And I'm like, I know that it's not real grapefruit, but it's chemicals. So what's a flower essence?
Yeah, so like in that same way, the essence of grapefruit, it's like a hint of a flavor, right? Or like when someone walks in the room, like you can feel their essence. This is like feeling the essence of a flower. So if you maybe an easier way to understand it is in terms of like herbal medicine preparation, let's say. if you have a headache, it's a physical issue. You want to turn to the physical herbs. So this is like your whole body. You're going to go to something like white willow, that will be like a light anesthesia for your headache, and make a tincture or a tea. Or you can't sleep. Maybe you'll make a tea out of chamomile or passion flower. Essential oils are the next level. So it's like the blood or the immune system of a plant. So you're gathering that out and you're improving your own circulation and your immune system, your nervous system. Flower essence is the consciousness of a plant. It's like the mind of a plant, like that level essence, like the heart of a plant. And then it's gathered in like a subtle electrical frequency and stored in water. So we know that bees are not drawn to flowers based on color or scent, that they're actually drawn in by this very subtle electricity that they're emitting.
I didn't know that.
Right? And I believe that's how we're attracted too. It's just not, we've been trained to be skeptical of things that we can't see with our eyes. But when you're a kid, you're drawn to all kinds of things, and you have magical worlds, and you're like much more immersed in that language. And it's a language that all of us can speak and that all of us perceive. And if we go out into the wild, it's not just oxygen that's invariant. I mean, everybody knows that. If you say, have you ever been to like an oxygen bar in Colorado or something? Maybe people have tried the oxygen. It's like, yeah, that's not the same as going out to the wild. So what we're doing is capturing that life force from flowers that are growing in the wild and then bottling it in water and alcohol. Alcohol is the stabilizer. Water is the record keeper. Water it's like a CD or a DVD or a record. It's like can hold information. And then the alcohol preserves it. And then the more interesting part is that when you dilute this substance, the more dilute it becomes, the more powerful it is, which is such a mind twister. It doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Because I read the ingredients, the instructions. It says if you buy a tincture, put 5 in water, drink it throughout the day.
Yeah, and that just shows you like how we've evolved as a species. Like in the beginning, I was making people remedies, and we would take the drops and put them right in our mouth. And somewhere naturally, like about 10 years ago, I just started putting them in drinks, and I saw everyone else doing that. And pretty soon, everyone in the organization was like just putting them in their beverages, which dilutes it even further, which makes it even more powerful. So like, what the heck, and it kind of makes sense when you think of it in terms of homeopathy. Like if you sprain an ankle, maybe you'll go to the health food store and get Arnica 6X because that 6X is acute trauma. And then, but what's this business about like 30C? And some homeopathics are like million, 1 part per million. And of course, we know from the world of homeopathy that you can take poisonous substances, you can take lead, you can take cadmium, you can take poisonous plants in the form of homeopathy, because at that point, there's no more chemical constituents of the plant. It's so diluted, right? So in the same way, flower essences are really similar in that you're diluting. So you gather the mother essence in water. Once you have the mother essence, you go through 2 other dilutions. I think of it as like, it's not even nanoparticles. It's smaller than that. It's just energy. But if you think of it as these like super micro, when something's small, they can get in small places, right? So I'm talking cellular memory. When you think of osmosis, particles have to be really small to get in. It's like osmosis through into water, right? So then what are we talking about? We're talking about your cellular memory. We're talking about in your DNA makeup, there's a part of you that has records from all the way up to 8 generations back in your family lineage. And those records impact the way you perceive the world. They impact how you feel and think and what your sort of go-to patterns are. So something happens in a room of people and everyone will interpret it differently. Why? Because of that information, and not just from family lineage, but also from womb until now, every experience you've had. That's registering, and your subconscious mind registers something like 600,000 pieces of information every, I don't know, I don't have the details, but it's like an insane amount of information, right? So all of those things are impacting how we filter and see the world, as well as collective. There's like a collective mainframe, like a matrix that we are sourcing information from as well. And it sounds weird, but just watch the news or watch something on social media. You get like a little piece of something from that. right? And we saw what happened in 2020, like when contagious fear passes through. Well, we can also have contagious joy. We can have contagious empowerment. We can have contagious fearlessness. And that's really what the 3% is all about, is what is that number that creates the tipping point, for everyone to feel this wave of like reaching their full potential. And then it eases the pressure and tension, because if you go back to this cellular memory stuff, it's like, holy shit, how can any of us function with all that going on in the background? Really, like, we get triggered about stuff, we get upset about stuff, and then we wonder why, and we think there's something wrong with us, and we shouldn't feel this, all this like garbage and swirl. And it's like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of a miracle we can like function as well as we do, even when we're like hardly functioning,
Yeah.
And then it takes the pressure off, because so many of us want to do good in the world, and we want to feel like we have a purpose. And, half of us are like lost thinking we don't have a purpose. And then the other half of us are like, I have a purpose, but like working too hard and grinding too hard. And in the end, what makes the most powerful impact in the world is here. Like that's actually the doorway. It's inside. And the more that we allow ourselves to evolve and accelerate our personal growth and work through all the little snags and knots and twists and turns in our own psyche, the more free we become. And the more free we become, the more free around us people become. And it just creates this ripple effect. And that's actually how we impact world change, is inside. The door is actually inside. It's not out there. We don't have to join 5 NGOs and donate all of our money to charity and like work to save, those things are great. And we engage in those activities, and I engage in those activities as well. Like, we just donated a bunch of money to a monastery in Nepal so they would be able to drill a well and have water. That's important, but also understanding that the major access for change is in here. And that's like readily available in every single moment, in every breath.
Oh, I love that so much. I loved when you were speaking about plants talking to you and how you felt guided, and just, what was it, the euphrasia that has that warmth for us. And I was thinking, I should do some research, but I remember there's this study where they had participants look at a screen, and they would flash a picture to them of a snowflake, a dog, a really traumatic event, a building collapsing. And they'd hook them up to monitors so they could gauge their blood pressure and different vitals. And right before they saw the picture, it was like a millisecond, their body had already reacted in a kind way if it was a kind picture, or in a nervous way if it was a displeasing picture. And I feel like that goes with what you said about the earth talking to us and how it's right here. Like, we have this inner knowing that goes back, what you said, 8 generations of who we are as people. It's so fascinating to me.
It is fascinating. It is. I think partly because it's on a level that we don't understand, we're maybe not conscious of, but it makes sense. Yeah, if you look at maybe some of the methods they were using is called galvanic skin response. I'm not sure, but there are studies done by, have you heard of Cleve Baxter?
Yes.
So about the CIA and using the lie detector machine and him hooking it up to plants and all that stuff.
Yes, but for people who don't, can you give us a little brief story?
Yeah, he was, he actually, a few of my friends knew him really quite well. He taught everyone in the CIA the polygraph machine, the lie detector machine. He was like the foremost expert in the US. And he just got curious one day and hooked his machine up to his office plants. I wish I could like have talked to him, like, what was going through your mind when you did that?
Right.
It's like a huge leap, And his first experiment was, what happens if I like take some matches and I light this leaf on fire? And the system, the plant displayed tremendous stress in that moment, and he had not even lit the match yet. So he realized in that moment, oh my God, the plant can read my mind. I just thought of what I could do. I didn't even do it yet. And that changed his whole outlook on everything. And he realized that, all of us as beings, whether we're plants, animals, humans, we're all so sympathetic to the environment that we feel others' pain. So like, for example, when he poured hot water over a bunch of shrimp and in fact they died, all the plants were just like panicking and freaking out. So there's this like really deep empathy in nature, and it's happening all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. And there's a communication between ourselves and our houseplants and our garden plants and a tree you sit under and a flower you talk to. So much so that in his experiments, when his office mate traveled hundreds of miles across the state to go visit his family, and it was a birthday party, and they did like the surprise, and he didn't know it was coming. Cleve went back and looked at the records, and this fella's office plants, who are also now hooked up to the polygraph machines, registered stress the precise moment that everybody jumped out and yelled surprise. So like geographically very far apart, but because they had a relationship, this plant was feeling even his positive stress and registering it in its system. So, it's little things like this that they kind of give us confidence that the magical way that we saw the world when we were little kids, actually how it really is. We've just been sort of, pulled into this really skeptical, hard world where we feel like don't want to be like a fool or too crazy but we can get that magic back.
It's wild. I love it. I love that you mentioned bringing that childhood wonderment back. How do we do that?
So many ways. I mean, one of the ways is taking flower essences. There's specific flowers for like bringing that essence into your life more, laughing more, being more curious, not being so stuck in a rut, not like being able to deviate over routines. There are flower essences for spontaneity and wildness. Of course, like going hand in hand with meditation practices or anything to bring you in the present moment, breath work, spending time in nature, like laying out in the flowers, climbing a tree, gardening, like all of these experiences kind of slow us down to the pace of nature where there's more space. And when there's more space, we can perceive more. Our senses are more acutely open, and not just the 5, but the 6 senses. And I think that kind of magic starts to turn on. You see it in people who like go on a 2-week vacation to Costa Rica, and they've been laying on the beach and floating in the tide pools and listening to the little crabs like make funny noises and rocks, and that kind of turns back on again. And then we go back to our crazy lives again, where we're bombarded by EMFs and funny diets and seed oils, and increasingly, every day it's like, oh my gosh, you learn about something new that's like, like trying to destroy you. I know, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, there are actually flower essences that you can consume and put in your coffee and water and tea and your everyday like crazy lifestyle that can just like create enough space to unlock that wonderment and that joy. So even if we're not able to be out in nature as much as we'd like to be, we can bring it into our lives.
Tell me more about the flower essences that you've created, harvested, and sell.
Yeah, I've been collecting for 20 years or so. We recently just started a YouTube show. We haven't released the pilot yet. I'm really excited about it. It could be interesting or it could totally bomb. I have no idea if anyone would be interested in watching Taylor and I. Taylor's a photographer. If she would, are people interested in watching us like fumble around out in the middle of nature trying to look for some like obscure flower? I don't know. We'll find out. So that's really kind of fun that we've been doing that lately. But we've gone all over, Canada, Costa Rica, India, Iceland, Taiwan, all over the US. And, our library is only like 300 flower essences because we've really gotten to know them so in depth. Each one, we just take them one by one by one and get to know them in our own bodies and our own minds. But there's over 44,000 species of flowering plants. And then beyond that, there's like hundreds of thousands of other plants that don't have flowers. So, I mean, it's like fascinating how wide the apothecary is that's available to us. And it really just involves going out into the wild. You want a place that's like, clean and there's no pesticides and it's relatively untouched by humans. You don't want to pick flowers near a cemetery. There's like, you're thinking about past history. You're thinking about what beings are in the unseen realms. What spirits are there? Are they happy? Are they not happy? We always do a smoke offering practice or at least 30 minutes of prayers to like appease any beings that are around and, offer them something of fulfillment, and then make prayers. And always it's the same, like I want to find what can benefit people most and who I can reach. And then the information, I want it to be like, please, like, give me the words that the crowds that I'll be speaking to can resonate with. Like, give it to me in like words and phrases that will be understood by people. And then I just write notes and write, or talk into my phone more recently. And then we try them. We try them ourselves. We try them as a company. We extend them into our Flower Revolution program, where there's, anywhere from 300 to 400 people taking it. And then over the last 20 some years, we just have like begun to put together all these blends. And the blends kind of make it easier because, to know a bunch of flowers is kind of confusing. But if you read the bottle and it says inner peace, then like, oh, okay, that's what I'm looking for. And organically, and I can tell you more about this, but organically, it's kind of just unfolded over the years of constantly coming out with something that the collective needs most in the now.
I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on why you wouldn't collect flowers near a cemetery.
Yeah, because cemeteries are concentrations of beings that are stuck in the unseen realms, in the realms that we can't see. So, I think of it as like, as many humans as there are in the world, there are just as many unseen beings, if you want to call them spirits, or, there's many names for them. And oftentimes when people die, if they don't have a peaceful death, or say, for example, it was a car accident, and they weren't fully conscious of the fact that they were dying, sometimes they get stuck for a little bit in the realm between here and the next place. So in cemeteries, or places where there's been a big battle, or where many people have been killed, or like 9/11, or, for a time period, unless, people have done significant practice in order to help those beings recognize what's happening and move on, they accumulate. And you just don't really want that influence in your flower essences. You want to be, nature spirits are just fine. But if it's like, it would be like, let's say you were going to make like a super healing remedy, and you went into a casino where people hadn't been sleeping in 48 hours and they were super mad. They lost a bunch of money, and there's like, all these disturbing emotions arising, or, a place that you could imagine kind of like that. You wouldn't want that energy to impact this like really healing elixir that you're making. That's why. You want to consider all factors, not just like the physical. It's like also how you feel. And, you don't have to really even know always. Like sometimes you get to a place and it's like, ooh, no, not here. You just feel it. Yes. We feel things. We're humans.
Or like, it's when you meet someone for the first time, whether you're standing in line for something or you're just at a restaurant and you feel drawn to someone. Mm-hmm. You give someone red roses when you love them. You give someone chrysanthemums at a funeral. Are there other rules or laws or projections of other flowers?
Yeah. It's not super like black and white, I would say. There are systems like the Victorian symbols, like some people would use flowers as messages and like, or as messengers. If you get like, you'll find books like that in old libraries. Like, if you give someone this flower, it means this. If you give them this flower, it means friendship. If you give them this, and I tend to think of those modalities as like more like symbolism, because in that time and culture, this symbol meant this. We have symbols all the time, even in our life, we have so many symbols, and each symbol means something. And then there's like the real energetic vibe, the vibratory frequency of what's coming out from that flower. That's a totally different thing. And do they sometimes overlap? 100%. Roses are one of the, top flowers for expressing love, both in symbolism and also in their actual literal effects on the body, whether it's rose essential oil, a bouquet of roses, rose flower essence, a yellow rose versus a white rose versus a pink rose versus a red rose. They all have a little bit different impact. And then you can look at it in terms of, there's also similarity between flower essence and herbal remedy. So for example, garlic is like Russia's penicillin, they say, because it kills bacteria. Yeah. And it's also an antiparasitic. So if you make a flower essence out of garlic flower, it's an anti-parasitic, but from the unseen realm, from beings that, get stuck or try to, disturb your mind. And garlic is a really powerful flower essence for like boosting your own natural energy so that you can be less impacted by extraneous foreign energies, let's say.
Oh, I like that. So you had mentioned taking some of the tinctures in water. What are the different ways that we can take the beautiful creations that you make?
Yeah, so you can take them in your mouth. If it's the elixir form, you can put them in all your beverages. You can put them in salad dressings. You can put them on food. You can put them in your dog's water bowl or food. And that's the internal remedy. That's like the traditional way they were taken. But remember, I started in 2001. So I was very sensitive to the fact that it was an odd request to have someone just start putting stuff in their mouth at that time for mood. So we started blending them with aromatherapy and mists and anointing oils and serums and bath salts so that at that time, for people who just wanted a nice smelling spray, like that was available to them. Would it change their life if they used it regularly? Yes. Would they attribute it? Maybe not in the beginning. They do now. And essential oils are so yummy, they make us feel so good and sensuous. So I've tried really hard I've been really conscientious of the fact that when I do the essential oil blends, it should mirror the benefits of the flower essences so that it smells like it feels like it smells like it feels, like what does luscious embodiment smell like? Certainly, I think we hit the mark on that one. It definitely smells like luscious embodiment.
I mean, that's a good segue, Katie, because this was one of the first ones that I bought and I really like it.
Isn't it like addictive? It's so good.
You mentioned you had 300 different flowers, but how do we know which one of your amazing blends is right for us?
It's so easy. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about the way things have really unraveled in a really natural, slow way over the years is that I discovered working at the farmers markets in the early days that if I held out a little laminated card, and it was like 115 degrees in the summer, it's crazy what we did back in those days, and asked people to choose whatever flower they were most drawn to. And then we would tell them what it means. And it was this, 99%, it was always like spot on. It would almost like take people aback, like, oh my God. And people still to this day, now we do like longer readings and, maybe you'll pick 16 flowers and then I'll read what it means about each one. And then people feel like naked, like, oh my God, you know me so well. We've been doing a lot of flower readings for people in India, and, the women are so beautiful and come on kind of like guarded and nervous. And, they feel like I'm seeing into them, but I'm not. They just chose those flowers and I know what the flowers are for. I'm reading it back to them and the flowers mirror back to us what we need. And we will always be drawn to what we need most. So like you could be in a flower shop, wherever you go, whatever looks interesting to you certainly has the most healing benefits for you in that moment. So for the people who get to our website and they're like, oh my God, there's so many things here, where do I even start? We just recommend them to take the quiz. So, and then it'll spit out like 3 different remedies that you can start with, and it will always be correct. Of course, there's like consultations and readings, and we have other practitioners at the Sound Center for people who want like a more extensive, like, let's get into this and really, dig deep for the root causes. And we love doing that. Even our customer service, like we love doing that. Call, email, DM us, like we love connecting people with flowers. But the best part of it is that our team has been trained to know that if you come to me and say, Katie, I haven't been sleeping well, what do you have for that? Of course, I could say, well, quiet mind is our number one remedy for sleep. But I'm trained, like, I'm not even going to tell you that. I'm just going to take you right to the flowers and say, what are you drawn to? Because maybe for you, it's not a nervous system issue. Maybe you're not on overdrive. Maybe you resent the fact that your sister did X, Y, Z, and it's just like, you can't let it go and it's keeping you up. And actually the other flower you need is more about relationship with your sister. So like we are constantly humbling ourselves to what we think people need, and then always just like taking it right back to their intuition, because we believe you don't need someone in a white coat, that you know the answer. That's the whole, like, you already speak, every one of us speaks the language of flowers, and it just comes from that impulse of like that creative impulse of like, oh, this one looks cool. I love the way this like looks and feels. I just love this one, right? And that is precisely the remedy that we need.
When I took the quiz, I think I really wanted to try, is it called Sacred Truth?
Sacred Heart or Divine Truth?
Yes, Divine Truth. Yes. I
That's a
think
scary one.
that was the one that came up for me. And I was curious to learn more about it. And I know this isn't a consultation, but
Oh, we can do a consultation. We can
oh,
have you pick flowers. We can do whatever you want.
oh, that sounds lovely. I mean, do you want to do that? How long does a consultation take?
I can do a reading. It takes about 10 minutes.
Hello, my lovely listeners. This is an extremely personal and beautiful reading from Katie. If you want to see it, it's at the very end of this episode. I figured I would take the time to share it with those who really want to listen. No worries if you don't, but instead of putting it here today, it's at the end of the show. As always, thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you so much for that reading. I genuinely feel very seen and like you know so much about me. I really appreciate it. Where does someone start after they take the quiz? Do you think the sprays are best? The oils? Walk me through it.
It's whatever you're going to use. They're all equally as effective. It's whatever you're going to use like the most. We recommend using it 5 to 8 times a day. So for some people, it's like, wow, every time I drink water, coffee, beer, whiskey, whatever you're drinking, I'll just put it in. Or every time you fill up your water bottle, then every time you drink from your water bottle, it's like a dose essentially. For some people, they're really just like, I want the smell good. You know, I want that like shower of stuff. And I just feel like it like cleans off the gunk from the day. And they want that multiple times a day. Other people are more like precise, you know, or they know about acupressure points and they want to, like we work with an acupuncturist here, multiple actually around the States who use them in place of needles for folks who are not into needles. And you can also use them, you know, on pressure points, or you use them like a yummy perfume, but they're doing something else. So it's whatever you can kind of work into your lifestyle. Most people at this point, I know, like the real aficionados, they just kind of have them around in different places of their house and, you know, use them, put them somewhere you'll see them. So you'll like use it often enough. And then like for myself, I'll always have at least one internal remedy that I'm like, this is the most important thing. I need to really focus on this. And then I just put it in all my beverages.
One of the flowers that I picked, I forget which one it was, but you said it's for body changes. And I'm in the middle of perimenopause, along with many of my listeners, along with menopause. Mm-hmm. Do you have some supports for the gracefully aging females?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of run down like luscious embodiment for feeling like wildly free and loving and accepting of all of your body, no matter what state it's in. Infinite love, also for self-love, but also if you're using the mist, it has rose in it, which is cooling. So if people are going through things like hot flashes or irritation, like soothes that, the heat. If people, I mean, you know, radiant energy is something that balances cycles. So it's good for women of any age. For women who have already gone through menopause, sometimes it brings their periods back. Sometimes they don't want that or they don't like that. Sometimes they do want that. So wild abundance, because it's got that peony and it smells like jasmine and sandalwood. And it's like, you know, anything that makes us feel beautiful, I think is helpful. And sacred body is good physically. You know, so many of the issues I think that we're facing today are like mitochondrial issues. And are our detoxification pathways open? And are we cleansing like we should? Are we pooping every day? Are we smelling too many artificial fragrances? Are we bombarded with, you know, toxins? Then sacred body is the one that helps us like, just get all that stuff out more efficiently. Those are kind of basics, you know, that every woman can use. Like, who can't use that? But to just like do the quiz and dive in and see, like, you know, or like book a consult with one of us and like get a report, because like what I would do for you right now is I'd build out a PDF report that has like for each flower you choose a couple of really insightful questions you can ask yourself, a whole readout on each flower, like much more than what I said, and some things to contemplate. And then you can kind of see like what is my core issue? Like, what's the thing that's really calling me? Because when we're going through changes, and it's like going through a second adolescence, you know, like, God, like, why do I have so much cellulite on my butt? Or like, why did I gain 20 pounds? Or what the hell is going on with my body? You know, a lot can come up from that. And it's really looking at what's the root again, and trying to like gently, nourishingly and nurturingly like pull that out from inside of yourself. Like what's the next kind of unraveling for you towards moving towards like wild freedom.
It feels like the products that you offer help offer support through some hard work or maybe challenging times that we need to get through.
They do. And you can, I like to describe them that way because I'm like that. Like my personality, I have a lot of, like I have an Aries rising, like I'm really gung-ho. Like I want to dive in and like I want to do the work, mostly because I want to feel the freedom on the other side. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can also just be like, I want to laugh more. So where's my joy juice? Like I want to take a bath with luscious embodiment. I want to speak my truth. I want to learn where my voice is. I mean, there are even flower essences for like gracefulness and dancing. And I used to be really involved in salsa dancing, and I would try out the different blends. And there are certain ones that like, you just feel more embodied and sensual. Like open heart. Open heart is amazing for libido and just like feeling really connected to people. Yeah. So like really whatever you can do to nourish yourself, like you've gotten acupuncture before?
Yes.
Okay. So if you think about, your body as like a roadmap, and there's all these different meridian systems and points, and every little point's like a new doorway into you. And you're this like vibrating energetic being, and the needles are like tweaking all of the different energy centers of your body, right? So flower essences do the exact same thing, just without the needles. So it's like, turning on parts of you, turning off parts of you, getting out the stagnancy. It's like waking you up on a different level and more subtle way, in ways that like we can't even imagine. That's what I mean when I really geek out. It's like, I could tell you that for the last over, I don't know how long, we release a new flower essence every month, and every month I learn something new about myself that I've never seen before.
Two-part question. What did you release this month?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you learn about yourself?
So this month we're working on, just in through August, so a week or two, working with lotus cactus. It sounds cool, right? Lotus cactus. It's this very luminous, bright pink flower that grows on a cactus. And it's native to Brazil, but sometimes you'll see it in like little cactus pots. I call it like the flower for following the golden threads. It's like when you are curious about something, when you're wondering about something, and rather than like kind of like shut yourself off, you allow yourself to indulge and explore it. And you see synchronicities, or you're just like, gosh, I'm really interested in this thing. And then you like move closer towards it. And then that leads you to something else and something else. And before you know it, like there's this whole, thing happening, or like a vision or something unfolding. And it's really like letting ourselves be more indulgent in that. And I was just writing an email this morning that I haven't sent out yet, but it's like, I did this experiment where I went to Instagram. I don't know why. I guess because I'm hanging out with my sweet dog, and who's about ready to transition. So she was asleep, and I was looking at Instagram, and I said, I'm going to look on Instagram for signs that this is a current trend, because every flower that we release every month is like addressing a collective theme. It's like what everybody needs. That's why all of us can take it at the same time, rather than like dialing into what's you or what's me or what she needs or he needs. So I turn on Instagram and I'm looking, and I see all kinds of examples of people encouraging themselves to do what they really want to do. Like there's one guy who has like 2 million followers. I think it's called Sailing with Phoenix. Have you seen his work, where he was working in a corporate job that he hated, and he had some health concerns come up, and he was going to be paralyzed, and he was just like, screw it. What I really want to do is I want to get a sailboat and I want to sail around the world. And he did. And people are just like, and he's sailing around the world in a sailboat with his cat. And people are just, that story of like, he just freaking did it. Like he did what he wanted to do. He did what he was curious about. I watched another story popped up with this actor who said, I grew up in New York. All I wanted to do was sing Broadway. And then I became like a teen idol when I was 20, and then my whole career changed. And then I followed this idea of what I thought I was supposed to do in acting. This is an actor who like pretty much made it quite big. And then now he went back to sing in the studios and was like so enlivened and so emotive and so just like he wanted to cry, because it was like going back to being 15, and like that's what he really wanted to do. And that's what like enlivens him. So, if you look, you see this like thread happening right now. Yeah, actually it is a collective pattern of like, can we be a little more indulgent in allowing ourselves to explore outside what we're already doing, go outside the box, go outside the comfort zone, and not have to explain it to somebody, and not have to explain it to all those like bossy voices in our head either. Like, just let me just like explore this thing and see what happens.
I'm wondering, I don't know if this is your wheelhouse, but what kind of advice do you have for someone who feels stuck or they want to change a habit?
What kind of habit? Like, tell me more.
Maybe a bad habit. So, one of the habits that I'm trying to break is I want to stop drinking coffee or drink less coffee. I don't feel good when I drink coffee, but I love the way that it tastes. But I will immediately get an upset stomach, and then I don't have a very good aftermath when I drink it, but I just feel like it's the norm and I like doing it. It's like a little ritual, but I want to stop.
I recommend Game Changer. Game Changer has been really good for people to help break habits, like even smoking. Game Changer. It's like things are just like easy. You think like, oh, it'd be so hard to get out coffee and I'll get headaches and like actually when you set out to do it, it can be like super easy. Especially if you have something like a replacement. Like maybe, have you heard of Rasa?
No.
RASA? Yeah, it's a friend of mine who owns a company who does coffee replacement drinks, and they're full of adaptogens, but they have that like rich, meaty, like bittery, yummy coffee flavor. And you can just do like a French press or a teapot of that, and it feels as like yummy as coffee, but it makes you feel good. So sometimes it's just like the ritual. Now that you've replaced the ritual, just in the same way that if someone wants to quit smoking, I would recommend get a Game Changer mist, and every time you want to smoke, go outside and just like mist yourself and breathe, because that's part of the and Game Changer has flower essences in it that like help you find the middle path, not be too hard on yourself with all extremes. Like you might say, I'm never going to drink coffee again, and then the other extreme is just like 5 espressos per day. So it's like finding the middle path. And then also it has flowers in there for making things easy and effortless. Just like, poof, done. Yeah, okay, I quit coffee. That was easy. It's not a big deal. You don't have to beat yourself up.
See, I love that you say it's not a big deal, because every morning I feel like I struggle.
Yeah, I drank coffee for most of my whole life, and I quit drinking it about a year and a half ago. And really just more concerned. I was like concerned about my adrenals, and I was really only having like 1 or 2 cups a day. But when I really made a decision, because I was like seriously thinking, okay, this is going to affect my health, it was so easy to quit. And there's something else happening with coffee. I mean, it's happening with anything, right? Chocolate, sweets, whatever, cake. You can ask yourself in the morning when you're like, oh, I just want to go get some coffee. What's that feeling you're looking for? Because it could be like, that could be like self-care, self-nourishment, or maybe that's an opportunity for you. You like sit and you do nothing but drink. And it's this like spaciousness of drinking a nice hot drink. And that's what you really crave. Maybe it's not actually the bitter juice that gets you all jittery and messes with your stomach. And if you replace it with something like rasa or something else, a mushroom drink or something that's satisfying, it's like hot, and you have that same morning ritual. I love me. I can sit quietly and I have an excuse to have a nice hot drink and have space.
I love that. I love that so much. And I just love speaking with you. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about relationships. I have so many friends who are getting divorced and dating again, but I would just love to hear some of your thoughts on changing relationships.
Yeah. Changing relationships. What do you mean by that?
You are transitioning from being single to being in a relationship, or from being in a relationship to being out of one.
Yeah. So if you're in a relationship and you're going out of one, there's so many things that flower essences can help with in terms of like heartbroken, disappointment. Oh, like I was so stupid. Why did I pick him? Why didn't I see the red flag? Why didn't I see that coming? Why did I think we were a good fit? Or just like disappointment, or just like bummed, or like I wasted time, or where's the one for me? I mean, there's so much in there, right? Or like even just missing, longing, abandonment, betrayal, anything. Like relationships are basically a reflection and will show us where our core wounds. So if we can use the relationships, whether it's you're getting out of one or you're getting into one. Okay, now you're getting into one. Now as it's like, do I like this about this person? Could I manage this for how long? Are we a good fit? Am I seeing the reality, or am I painting rosy and this person's on pedestal and then I'm going to see the shit later? Is like, or like, who's he texting? Is he texting someone else? Is he like someone else? Like what? There's just, unlimited fodder for growth in relationships. So no matter where you're at, there are flower essences for mending a broken heart, for transitions, for feeling like you can fall in love with yourself and you don't need any love outside of you, which by the way makes you really sexy. If anyone wants to do like a challenge, the Infinite Love Challenge, especially in New York, I find like New Yorkers really love this blend. Use Infinite Love in any form 5 or more times a day. After about a week, you will notice like everybody just kind of flocking to you. Like you'll be in the grocery store and someone will be like, I love your hair, I love your dress. They like want to be close to you because your vibe is so soft. And then your loved ones will become a lot more affectionate. That's the infinite love. But there's also like open heart is like, how vulnerable can you be? How curious can you be? Can you listen to the other side of the story when you're in an argument? Like how open can you be? What else? What are some of the other things we go through? Even like navigating children. Like, are we wanting to raise children in the same way? Do we want kids? Or am I single? Am I going to find someone? Am I just going to be lonely for the rest of my life? There's like pretty much any area of relationships or any concern. There's a flower essence for that.
It sounds like we're all going to be okay no matter which path we choose. You've mentioned a consultation a few times in your center in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. What does it look like if someone wants to work with you or a member of your team?
Yeah, so there are flower readings and there are consultations. Consultation is usually like a little bit longer and more drawn out. Flower readings are quicker, but it'd be similar to what we just did, where you choose, like that's always what we'll do first, is have people pick flowers. And then afterwards, we can talk about like what resonated most with you, like what's happening in your life. What's like, I will usually tell people like, I know you're really good and successful in so many areas. I don't want to know that. I want to know the dirt. Like, tell me about Ashley on her worst freaking day of the year. Like what happens to you? What challenges you? What's like the deepest pain point or fear? And then like from there, we can look at the flower essences and see like how to either like dance around it or how to like go right into the center, how to go into the center with lots of support, and just really make you feel like you have a garden of allies that can like, soften the path and make you feel like, yeah, I can do this. This is doable. I have some relief here and I can go where I want to go and embody who I want to be and I can reach my full potential.
I love that. A garden of allies. I also had to tell you, I was at the market last Saturday and I thought of you because I was like, I'm only going to buy the flowers that I'm really attracted to. And I wanted to show you these beautiful flowers that I got at the market because I've never seen these furry ones. So what you had said earlier about bees, these flowers don't smell, but they look so pretty.
Yeah, you want to know something interesting? The other ones in there are zinnias, the ones that are like a little sunflower. The colorful, like that pink one in the middle, that's a zinnia. Yeah, that's a zinnia. And zinnias are very similar to that pink spirea, the party on a stick one that you chose. They're for like letting your inner child play and for more laughter and enjoyment. So it makes sense that they give you joy.
I love that so much. And I feel like I'm learning so much today. But Katie, as we wrap up this podcast, I ask all my guests the same closing question, which is, what haven't I asked you that you'd like my listeners to know?
What a question. Okay. Can it be like totally off topic?
Yes.
What does the world of flower essences have in common with blockchain and cryptocurrency? And why would a company like yours that is expanding on something as subtle as a flower essence also be interested in implementing strategies for blockchain?
I'm on the edge of my seat. Please tell me more. Please answer this question.
This is like what I'm really geeked about lately. Okay, so you know how flower essences are an energetic remedy, and we talked about the more diluted they become, the smaller they get to these little tiny parts, and they can open more doorways, and they're like going much deeper into your psyche, right?
Yes.
And they're exponential, right? Because we could make flower essences of, well, we wouldn't make them because you have cut flowers, but let's say we found those crazy flowers that you have in the wild, and we made a flower essence of them. It would give us enough mother essence likely that we could will it to our next generation. Like it's plentiful, abundant, and make, many, 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 many people's lives better because of them. Because we're doing the dilution process, right? So it's exponential. It's like when you spend one day in the wild, the health benefits that you get from that last for a week. And if you spend 2 days in the wild, the health benefits last for a month. Mother Nature in its essence is exponential. And I believe that as human beings, we are also exponential, right? Because I'm like saying 3% for that ripple effect of actually changing the outcome of the future of the planet. Okay, so where I get excited about crypto and blockchain is, and to some extent AI, even though that's like a dirty word in some circles, is because we've found people who have networks that are fully decentralized, meaning that there's no one at the top running it. There's no top down, there's no authority, there's nobody trying to squeeze you. It's not like the credit card companies, like they're always getting all the money, on the transactions, like the credit card mafia. It completely is decentralized. So it's putting the power back into the individual, into like we the people. And it's like, I think of it like the small little parts of the flower essence, and then you're distributing the financial wealth into individual hands, right? And then when you have projects that are like built on the blockchain, there's a community that we work with. Actually, it's called Morpheus. And every person I talk to is involved with Morpheus. It's like super generous, super kind, just wants to help you, because like this is a system where you are now incentivized to help other people. And the more that like you are like, the more that you have success, the more that I have success, because we're all kind of tied into the same project. So it like flips the whole story. And rather than like everybody trying to get their piece, it's like, how can we be more generous? How can we be more kind? How can we help? How can we expand? Because it's just like an expander for everyone. Especially when, in worlds like AI, where people are using ChatGPT, and it's like scary, because people's personal information is going back into that mainframe, and it's not necessarily benefic, let's say. And it doesn't give people privacy. And, there was a case a couple of weeks ago where people's private conversations were like, you could Google them because it was coming from ChatGPT. But there are other forms, like this particular group, Morpheus, where they're like heightened to the nth degree about privacy. And they've like figured out the way to protect people. So all that just to say, I'm really excited about building wealth for other people. And I want to we're slowly starting to, Justin teaches crypto bloom classes once a month, where he teaches people like, what is crypto? How do you get a wallet? How do you get involved? How can you take a little bit of money and make an investment in 5 minutes? Because I believe that this is a way to help people build their wealth portfolio and move further away from survival and move closer to that same like abundance feeling and like anything's possible feeling. And I see both worlds. As long as you're in a blockchain world that is integrity, it reflects that exponentiality that Mother Nature has.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. That was not a question or an answer I was expecting. I love it.
Great. I'm glad I surprised you.
I love what you say about wealth. And I was just listening to a podcast today, and I wrote this note down that said, some people get wealth and lose it because they're not a vibrational match for it. And it sounds like you're trying to raise someone's vibration so that they can attract the wealth that they deserve, that they can attract and use and help other people.
Yeah. And it's like rewriting the code. It's like rewriting the code that if you're successful, it doesn't mean that I'm any less successful, that we can rewrite the code. And I think, certain blockchain communities are doing this on a material level. And then, of course, the flower essences are doing this on a more spiritual, etheric, energetic level of, you just break it down to one simple thing. If you have a fruit tree in your backyard, you have more than enough fruit for you and your family. You start to like give bags and bags and bags away to your neighbor. And that's actually the reality of Mother Nature. Everything is in abundance. And when we can rewrite that code and then match it up to like material world systems that actually reflect and demonstrate that back to us, really exciting.
That's maybe one of the most heartwarming examples you've given this entire show. And I feel like that's how the earth is. Every time I go to Arizona, that's where my grandpa lives, there are always boxes of fruit outside people's front yard. But that's just how the earth is. It's abundant.
Right. And so are we.
Katie, it's been so lovely speaking with you. Can you please tell my listeners where they can go to learn more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, so if you go to lotuswei.com, it's lotus like the flower, and then wei.com. You can take the same quiz that Ashley took and see what you need the most. You can also visit us at the San Center. It's the Self Arising Nature Center, and that's in Phoenix. And that website is sancenterphx.com. We'd love to see you in person or online.
Amazing. Well, we will put everything in the show notes. I think we have a discount code as well. If we do, we'll pop it in there. Katie, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ashley. So you'll get 96 different flowers.
Ooh.
Seems like a lot, but it's kind of quick.
Okay.
And then just tell me before you click on it, tell me what you're looking at, like what it looks like or what row or.
Well, this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, and where I feel like a bad citizen of Earth because I don't know the name of hardly any plants.
Oh my God, you don't have to know anything.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to know anything about anything. You just have to know what looks good to you.
Okay.
What looks interesting.
I'm interested in this orange one.
Okay, so that is a cannonball flower. That one we collected in Singapore, and it's usually when shit hits the fan for you, you probably isolate, you probably go alone into a room. You don't really like blab it out to a lot of people. You just kind of like want to handle it on your own terms. Usually it's when we aren't quite keen on being really vulnerable. So it's a flower that helps us open up our hearts a little more, lets people in a little more, and lets people see our vulnerable side a little more. And then you know what? They like us even better. And we get more sense of connection. So it's a flower that amplifies a sense of connection to everything around you.
I love hearing that. Do you want me to click it and then I'll go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. My goodness. I feel like I'm digging this white one.
Okay, that's banana yucca. And it's for helping you unearth hidden potential. So things that you're really good at that you don't even know you're good at. It's also really good for collaboration with women.
I feel like I'm learning so much.
Yeah. And I'll just take note of what blends these are all in. And then at the end, I'll give you like a recommendation of what one I would say start with first.
Okay. Oh, oh my goodness. Some of these are so wild looking.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting. I don't know. I'm kind of in between this one and then this, I think maybe this wild one on the end.
I know, we call it a party on a stick. It's one of the flowers that the butterfly led me to, a different one. Actually, there were two in BC, and it's called Pinksperia. And it is like, wow, it's just like, it goes into your heart. It dissolves any little pieces of sadness, and it brings out your inner child. It's like play, laugh, have fun, enjoy. You don't have to be so serious. What does your inner child want to do? It's like the ultimate enjoyment flower.
I love that. Because I was just asking you how he could be more childlike, have that wonder.
Yeah.
I think I like this one, Katie.
Mm-hmm. That one is the buckhorn cholla. It grows here in the Sonoran Desert. And it's when there's a part of you that's really longing to slow down and to be silent and to be quiet and really tune into nature and like turn to nature for more insight. And it helps you do that.
Ooh, this one. I like this pink one straight away.
Mm-hmm. That one is called a pink torch ginger. It gives us a tremendous amount of stability. And it's usually, like, I think of it as, I call it the sacred sting. It's like when something in your life happens and it really bugs you. And then your logical mind is like, gosh, why am I making this such a big deal? It shouldn't be a big deal. But like, it's really bothering me. And usually it's when we're like trying to uproot something that happened in childhood that really bothered us, or that like we project into reality today. We're trying to uproot it. So we take an experience that appears today and we kind of project onto it. And then we use that experience to try to pull out the root of whatever that painful thing was. So it gives you a tremendous amount of stability while you're in that process.
I feel like this is the one that I've been drawn to the most, doing research on you and your company and getting the sweet little card in the mail. And maybe it's because I feel like I need that stability in my life. My husband and I are doing long distance, and sometimes I just feel such a feeling of hopelessness. So I feel like this really hit the nail on the head.
That flower is also in a blend called True Strength, which has a lot to do with giving you a sense of divine masculine and activating that within you. So even when you're separate, then you can kind of compensate within your own system to feel more stability and foundation.
Oh, I love learning that. I also love these pink ones that look like little starfish.
They're amazing. We were just in Wyoming and they're everywhere there. It's called Skyrocket, and they're for when we have a little bit of trouble saying no. Do you ever have a hard time saying no, or do people take advantage of you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And it can even be like in extreme cases where it's like energetic vampires, where like somebody's really draining your energy and it's just so hard for you to like draw the line. So this helps fortify our energy, helps us say no, and helps us make boundaries.
Okay. I like this purple one down here.
Awesome. That is a purple pea flower. Like the blue pea ones that everybody's making drinks out of.
Yeah.
It's a purple one. It grows in South Carolina and it's gorgeous. It's such a pretty flower. And it's for like embracing more pleasure in life. It's like when a part of you, we all do this sometimes. It's like we're in an uncomfortable situation and we kind of just like endure. Like that's our MO, is we go into endure versus like say, I need this. I want this. I want to change here. I want more pleasure. I want more enjoyment. I want more freedom. We just like kind of hunker down and like, I'll just endure. So it's rerouting that pattern. No more just endure, and like, it's okay to ask for what you need. And that can be like from the gamut. It can be like construction noise to where you're living, to your sexuality, to your experiences, to the food you eat, like all of it.
I feel like I really needed to hear that because I live in New York City. And that's usually why when I record podcasts, every time I'm not speaking, I put it on mute because there's always horns honking and motorcycles driving by.
Yep. Good old New York. I love New York.
This white one.
That is a white magnolia. Usually when we're in a position of like transition or change, like something in your life might be transitioning. And when we are in transition, it's just natural that we kind of feel that sense of instability. It just happens. We're having a baby, we're pregnant, we're moving, we're changing jobs, we're doing something new, and it's like we get a little instability. So this flower helps us feel like stable and like we're in the right place at the right time. Like we have right timing.
I loved learning that. I feel like I could cry with that one because I feel like I've been in a state of transition for over a year, just like living in limbo, waiting to get to the next chapter.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's good for when you feel a little hopeless.
Oh gosh, Katie, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a tie between this white one in the corner and this pink one up here.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I can tell you both. The white one is a saguaro, another embodiment of divine masculine. It's like when you're missing the divine masculine, when you need a little more support, it creates it in your system for you. Or the peony in the upper corner is about dissolving any messages in your cellular makeup around scarcity or not enoughness, whether it's like, am I enough, or do I have enough, or can I make enough money? The hustle and grind in New York City is like a lot of that, right? And this flower, the peony, just brings in like this feminine, luscious abundance, prosperity, opportunities, possibilities, like overflowing, capacity for growth and expansion.
Gosh, I love it. I'm going to click on the white one that you mentioned with the masculine energy because I do feel like I miss my husband every second of the day. This one in the middle, this orange one, pops out to me.
Yeah, so desert mallow, it does kind of two different things. One is like when you feel like you're aging or something's changing about your body and you don't feel really comfortable, it does have this tendency to boost your radiance and make you feel more beautiful and youthful. The other element of it is shit hits the fan and like conflict arises and you just want to run. It's like that impulse to just get me out of here. So it helps us root into ourselves and a sense of confidence, commitment, like commit to staying. It's really hard when someone comes in and they're like combative to like stay. Just stay is a lot. So this helps you see what's on the other side of just sticking with it and committing to the process.
Oh my gosh, everything you're saying, I feel like what you mentioned earlier, where I do just feel so seen. I love this pink one down in the bottom left.
Hollyhock, it can be either for like skin irritations or irritation emotionally, like irritated your husband's gone, or fear of betrayal, or like some part of like the relationship situation is hopeless. In your case, it could be just like, he's so far away and this is driving me nuts. And like, I feel hopeless about this. And I just feel irritated. It's like messing with our relationship, it brings in like this wave of softness and gentleness, and like shows you that really the only way through is just to be really gentle with yourself, gentle with your partner, gentle with all the relationships.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The next one, I think I like this, right? The one on the right, this red one.
Yeah, that's a prickly pear. And we have a few different prickly pears. This bright colored one is for an enhanced sense of synergy and efficiency. So that can either be inside of you in your work, in your projects, but more likely it's like synergy with the people that you are in connection with, like whether it's your husband or the people you work together with. It just, how should I say, it just puts everybody on the same track, and then you can move faster. It just amplifies it's like your energy systems all just like click in with like a deeper connection, and everything flows more efficiently.
Okay. Ooh, should I wait? Or are you going to tell me? Oh.
Yeah, either way. You kind of like picked a lot of them all across the board, but I would definitely recommend Awakened Expression. This is where we could talk about like all the blends that are most needed right now. Awakened Expression is the newest one. And for people who are really wanting to like push the dial in terms of their spiritual progression and personal growth, this is like right out there on the edge. And it's, it has the saguaro, which you picked, and the prickly pear flower. There's a couple other ones in there. This one is like Divine Truth, but the next level. Yeah, like Truth Teller is like 1.0, Divine Truth is 2.0, and this is 3.0. This is like, watch out. Like Ashley's just going to say what she needs to say. And it really helps you hold people to their highest. Joy juice, of course, because you may just be like really missing, and a part of you just wants like the freedom and enjoyment of being a child, and more laughter and more fun and less sadness. Let's see, what did I pick for you, Boundless Wisdom? I guess because of the white magnolia, but I would also recommend probably like knowing a little bit more of your story. I would recommend True Strength.
Okay.
Because that pink torch ginger you're most drawn to, and it like kind of falls in line with that divine masculine.
That was so insightful. I genuinely feel like you really knew me. And the reason I bought the tinctures that I bought previously was because of the reviews and how people felt. And I did do the quiz, but I wanted to buy even more of them. So that's when I bought the Luscious Embodiment. I bought the Quiet Mind for my husband. And then I also bought Inspired Action, because sometimes I just feel like there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. And I think in this case, you've been using flower essences for a while. And in this case, at least with this quiz, it's like a part of you on a very core level, or like the Awaken series, typically I think of it as like for core wounds. Like you're ready to just like drill right in deep and say like, okay, why am I feeling this way? What's really causing this? Can I get to the root cause of this? Because on the other side of that is so much freedom when we can just like go right in. And that path is not for everyone, if we're just coming into the world of flower essences fresh, this is the first time we've taken them, we kind of want to start with like the joy juice, like just start with something simple that like, and the quiet mind, like just help me sleep, just help me laugh more, just help me feel more love. And they're very stabilizing. And then as we become like energetically stronger, there's that part of us arises that's like, well, then let me get to the root of all of this.
I love that. And I feel like you hit the nail on the head. That's what we're all here for, right? Not just a pill for an ill, but what's the root cause? Thank you so much for listening today. A quick shout out on Instagram or sharing this podcast with a friend can make a positive difference. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube, a great way to support the show is by leaving me a review. You can also support my work by using any of the affiliate links in my show notes or by visiting my website, ASHLEYDEELEY.com. This podcast is presented for educational and exploratory purposes only. The published content is not intended to be used for diagnosing or treating any illnesses, diseases, diseases, or disorders. Those responsible for this show disclaim any responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of this information presented by myself or my guests. Please consult with your healthcare provider before using any products or services referenced in this podcast. The content here is for informational purposes only. Episodes on the Welcome to Wellness podcast may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to depression, suicide, 5G, nootropics, circumcision, birth control, the Women's Health Initiative, the use of plants medicine, abortion, geoengineering, terrorism, gender, AI, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You are advised to refrain from listening to this podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. However, if these topics interest you, you just may have found your tribe. The information or opinions expressed on the Welcome to Wellness show are solely the views of the individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and the guests can change at any time. The views of my guests are solely their views, and the Welcome to Wellness show does not accept responsibility for them. Any action you take based on the information contained within this show is strictly at your own risk. The Welcome to Wellness host, ASHLEYDEELEY, will not be liable for any losses or damages in connection with the use of this podcast. You should take all necessary steps to ascertain the information you receive in this podcast is correct and has been verified. None of the guests or contributors on the Welcome to Wellness podcast will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Under no circumstances will the Welcome to Wellness show or my affiliates, partners, suppliers, licenses, or guests appearing on the show be liable for any direct or indirect consequences or damages arising from your ability or inability to access this podcast. All intellectual property rights belong to me, ASHLEYDEELEY, and include, but are not limited to, the copyright and any other rights in the design. You are permitted to use the Welcome to Wellness podcast for personal use, but not commercial use without a license. You may not make recordings. If you breach these terms, you lose the right to access the Welcome to Wellness podcast, and you must destroy or return any copies of the recordings you've made. Guests on the Welcome to Wellness podcast may at times provide information on or read extracts from third-party copyrighted work. The Welcome to Wellness podcast does not provide any medical or professional advice within these episodes. If you take any action or inaction as a result of the content you consume from the Welcome to Wellness podcast, this is based solely on your decision, and the Welcome to Wellness podcast, ASHLEYDEELEY, and my guests cannot be held responsible or liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Thank you for listening.